Maintaining a high standard of education is important because it can directly impact a country's standing in the global economy. If a country doesn't maintain high education standards, this can result in skilled jobs being outsourced to other countries and can result in rising unemployment, lower living standards and lower consumer spending power. There's a direct link between level of education in a population and the likelihood of being unemployed. So in the USA in 2011, for example, 4 out of every 5 people who are unemployed only had primary or secondary level of education. So a major trend is that people are staying in higher education for longer. The number of students globally in higher education rose from 145 million in 2006 to 180 million by 2011. So there are numerous reasons for this. In Western markets such as Western Europe and North America, students are staying in education to gain a competitive advantage in the workplace. Youth unemployment is rising in many countries, and it's actually very disproportionate compared to the overall number of unemployed people. In Bosnia, for example, in 2011, the youth unemployment rate was 59.1%, which was more than double the unemployment rate for the total population. The reason why youth unemployment is so disproportionately high is that in terms of global recession, employers tend to opt for more experienced workers over young workers who don't have any experience of the working world. So this is really meaning that more students are continuing their education to gain a competitive advantage. So we're seeing a huge boom in the number of higher education students in Asia. In India, for example, it's really being driven by an increase in the number of students at primary and secondary level. So then these students go on to take higher education studies. So this is causing a massive demand for higher education institutions. And currently it really outstrips the availability of places. So for example, in 2011, the University of Mumbai had 37,000 applications for 800 places. What this does mean is that there's a huge opportunity there for private higher education institutions to enter these markets. Emerging regions are really the driving force behind this boom in the number of higher education students globally. So Latin America saw the biggest increase in the number of its higher education students between 2006 and 2011, and this was driven primarily by Brazil. Now, Brazil's growth in higher education students was driven really by a population boom in the 2000s, coupled with some reforms which have increased the government's role in education and made it more of a priority. We've also seen a large increase in the number of higher education students in Africa and the Middle East. So governments are also spending, despite the recession, despite the state of the global economy, are really investing in education. And this is part of a drive to attract foreign direct investment inflows and to increase labour productivity. Per capita government expenditure is highest in the world in wealthy Scandinavian countries. Norway had the highest per capita government expenditure on education in 2011 at $5,702 US per person. And this is really a result of high taxes in the country, which enable the government to provide a really high standard of education. So on the other hand, governments in some advanced economies, such as the UK, are cutting public funding for higher education or raising fees as part of austerity measures. And this could really put pressure on students in higher education in these countries and possibly force them to look for alternative countries where it's become cheaper to study abroad.